talk about competency. So you are in, I'll say, is it correct to say healthcare?
Yes.
Okay. So you are in the healthcare industry. So what are the competencies of true leadership in healthcare? And can you share an example where you use one of those competencies that you're going to share with the leadership community?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm answering this correctly. So by competencies, like, do you mean like educational or like different values or things?
All values that you need to navigate in the space of healthcare. And believe it or not, competency can be education. It depends on what you're talking about in regards to what you got from the education that you need to navigate within your space. Because I don't think too many of us want anyone in healthcare who hasn't gotten a degree of education. We don't.
Yes, no, that's very true. Because I was just having a conversation about this yesterday, and I try and respect everyone's work, hustle, whatever you want to call it. I don't want someone taking care of me that doesn't have the proper education or certification or training. So if you are going to be in healthcare, whether it's health and wellness, because that's a big term we see now, right? Health and wellness. Everyone's a coach, and there's place for that. But please make sure you have some kind of certification, some kind of degree, some kind of education, because I don't want you taking me somewhere that you're not trained to go yourself, So I will say, if you're going to work specifically in healthcare, I know for me in my particular field, as a advanced practice, nurse and a doctorate level nurse, like a master's degree was the entry level. I chose to get my doctorate for personal reasons and professional reasons, but definitely educate yourself. I think that's one of the biggest investments you can make, is to become an expert in your field. I think in healthcare, there's got to be some part of you that likes people to some degree. Now we all know, in service industry, people can wear you out. We love them to death. I'm sure I wear somebody out somewhere. But there's got to be a part of you that people like, and they can connect to, they can talk to. Like, nobody wants to go to my office and they can't chat with me. It's horrible. And I think there has to be like a compassion component for where I am. Like, you want to see people better than where they are. You want to help people truly, to make positive change in their life. So definitely, I would say those are my things. And I'm really, a big fan of, honesty. Like, you gotta be, as a competency, you gotta be honest in this field too. I want someone who's gonna keep it real with me. Who's gonna tell me the truth, whether it kind of hurts my feelings. Sometimes my feelings need to be hurt. Sometimes somebody needs to tell me, Dr. Vines, you are overweight, or Dr. Vines, your blood pressure is too high, or Dr. Vines, this medication is not working, or whatever it is, I want someone to just be real. And so be honest. I think one of the reasons I hope patients respect me is I try and keep it real. I'm very tactful, very friendly. That compassion kicks in. But just being, real. And lastly, I would say, just be your authentic self. Show up as you. I always think of, as a leadership competency, regardless if you're in healthcare or whatever, people, they like your service, but people come to you because they like you. So show up as yourself. I have tried to take that with me throughout my career, and I can't be Dr. Oz. I can't be, all these other people you see on the news. I am Dr. Shaughnassee, and I have a tribe of people that I love to take care of and work with because they genuinely care about me. And I try and show up and be honest for them, have compassion for them. And they know I got the credentials behind my name are authentic. So those are important, I think, for my industry.
I totally agree. I need the education. I need I need some experience to kind of balance that out too. I if you're fresh out of school and, or not, when I say fresh out of school, I'm not talking about doing your residency, because that is experience.
No, I get it.
If you haven't had hands-on, I'll see you in a couple of years when you got a little hands-on.
What I try and do is I try and set small, manageable goals with and I hate saying patients. I call them my people, because this is my tribe that comes. Okay. But with my people, I set small, manageable goals. So if it's for you, sleep. I may know that we need to talk about snacking, talk about weight, talk about this, talk about that, but I'm just going to focus on one thing and say, okay, I know you got a lot on your plate. We're going to address all of them, but not today. But I just want to know, how'd you sleep? Did you work on that one thing? Or did you work on, going upstairs and going to sleep and not falling asleep on the couch or not napping? Can we just do one thing? And then when you feel like, okay, I did that, cool. Now let's talk about snacking. Did you cook one meal instead of going out to buy that meal? Or, did you work on less sugar or whatever it is, So that way, little by little, goal by goal, we are accomplishing things, but you're doing it. And every time you are successful at one, you're like, I can do the next one. If I could do that, give me some time, I can do this. And people may transform, they 360 all the time.
I agree. And I just had a flashback to an experience I had with a previous doctor, and we'll move on to the next leadership question, but I just have to share this. So I used to have this doctor who at that time, I wouldn't lie, I just wouldn't say anything. When she asked me the question, I just wouldn't say anything. And so she wanted me to lose weight. So she wanted me to be on this weight loss journey. And so she would say, I just need you to lose 10% of your weight. So I lost 10%. And then I came back and that chick said, I need you to lose 10%. I said, you should have told me you wanted me to lose 20% or 30% back then, because this keep in there. So I figured out, so that manageable goals, instead of saying, Karen, I want you to lose 20 or 30% of your weight, she was doing it 10% at a time. And I actually came back with a weight loss of 10%. And when she said, I need you to lose 10%, I was like, wait a minute, I see what you're doing. And I thought that was so cute on how she did it, but I did come back and I had lost 10% because losing 10% was manageable for me. Had she had thrown the whole number at me, that may have been overwhelming for me and I may not have been successful. But I found her tactic to be very cute. I just say very cute. So let's talk about opportunities or failure. I don't like to use the word failure because I think everything is an opportunity. Depends on how you look at it. I'm a glass is half full type of leader. And so, but as leaders, we have visions, we have plans, we implement them along with our people. And sometimes things does not turn out the way that we had planned. Right. And so my question is, how, as a leader, how do leaders rise again when that happens, at the failure or at the opportunity? And can you share a time when your plans did not reap the success that you had envisioned?
Yeah, no, of course. Man, that's good right there. So I will say that I think most people who are in some type of leadership role are typically very goal oriented. And I use myself, for example. I have visions, I have dreams, I have very lofty things, you know what I mean? And one thing that I will say learning, because by no means have I arrived, but one thing that I am learning and becoming somewhat more comfortable and content with, and I'm a person of faith, I really believe that that's a center for me and for prosperity of my business. And one thing I've learned is that scripture that talks about, in Romans, all things working together. Yeah. Part of those all things are good things and bad things. And when you set out on this leadership journey in whatever capacity you are, it's like you are signing up for that you're going to take a risk that all things, are going to work for your good. They don't always feel good, but they ultimately work for your good. And so when those unsuccessful times, happen where things don't go the way you planned, it's just part of that all things working. We can't let that be a failure in our mind. We can't say, it may not have worked, but we can't say this is the end. I am no good. I need to hang it up, or whatever the case may be. Say, okay, how do I redirect myself? Is it in this same direction? Is it in a different direction? But how do I take what I've learned and, use it to better myself? Mm-hmm. So for myself, case in point, I'm kind of like getting over that hump myself, I would say. I wouldn't say that I had a failure, but I had a big reroute. And I had to have God help me deal with that, in my career. And he's helping me. And I see myself as being the better now than I was before. So I've had my own practice, like a building, for the past, since 2016. So from 2016 all the way to 2020, I had my own building. And I was doing my thing. And, I found my husband found me. We got married. My husband is in the military. And so all of a sudden, I had been here my whole life doing my thing. And my practice was growing. People were coming, all kind of stuff. People like don't start practices anymore. That's the trend in my field. So all of a sudden, we had to move. And we had to go all the way across the country. So it's not like we going to Moyoc or Elizabeth City, or I can drive back and forth. Like we moving 3,000 miles away. And I had a real big, I would say, heart to heart with God. And at first I was real angry. I'm like, how do you give me this vision and give me these means to do it? And this is not turning out this was not in my cards. It was not in my plans at all. It wasn't in anyone's plans. But you know what? It took me probably most of the time of the pandemic, so like a good year and some change. But now I can look back and, number one, see, part of that all things was I didn't know COVID was coming. None of us did. And he did, and so in a sense, he kind of saved my business. And then he took it in another direction and gave me more now than what I did before. So not only are we in the process of establishing another, physical place where people can come, but now we have Coceaux Health, this telehealth business that is licensed in 5 states. Had I not ever had to move to California, I might not have been licensed in California, and that was a whole market of people who were looking for me. And I didn't even know they were looking for me. They were just looking for my services. So I would say, don't be dismayed. Don't give up. Don't look at it like this is the end, but really, ask God, ask yourself, what is this supposed to teach me? I'm not starting from zero. I'm starting from experience, as that quote says, So how do I use what I've learned?
Good advice. Excellent, excellent advice. And I love that. I love that. And I share a situation that I had that was an opportunity. So when I was looking to switch positions, it was in my career. I was in senior leadership, but I wanted to go higher. I wasn't in the highest position. And so consulted with God, because I'm a spiritual individual. I'm like, God, I'm ready to move up. These people are keep putting me in these interim roles that are up. I might as well go ahead and move up since they keep tapping me into these interim roles. And so I was working for a company that I have been working for some time. And so they tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, when your boss retires, which is next year, you have that role. So I'm like, yo, I love that. I don't even have to apply. I'm already promised a job. Who wouldn't love that? And so she started handing things over to me, because she was retiring the next year. Well, the next year came and she didn't retire. And so it's like, okay, well, me with HR being my specialty, I know that you can't force anyone to retire. So it was not a conversation that I was willing to have. Like, what's up? What's going on? Why you still here? Type thing. So I just kept working along, but it was the elephant in the room. And so year 2 came around and she's still there working full time. And so I'm like, what is going on? Nobody's saying anything. Now she's not even talking about retiring. And so it was really the elephant in the room. And so I prayed about it. And so I felt as though God told me to search externally. It's time for you. You become too comfortable here. You've been here over a decade, search externally. And so I put my resume out there, boom, got a lot of hits. I have a very balanced resume when it comes to education and experience. And so I was offered a job that was beautiful. It was head of HR, regional head of HR over 5 states for hotel resorts. And I was like, yo, this is good. I get to travel. And they said I only needed to travel 30% of the time. I can have enough time to be with my husband, still keep my husband and keep my job. Everything was good. So I decided to leave the company I was with and went and accepted that position. Got to that position within 2 weeks. They elevated me from 5 states to 12 states.
Wow.
Same money.
Okay.
Okie doke.
I
didn't like that. We don't play that. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. So when they did that and didn't offer me any more money, and they did it within 2 weeks of me accepting that position, I felt that was always their plan. Their plan was to reorg once they got a person in place, and they felt that was a person who can handle it. So I was not a happy employee in this new position. But I, in my mind, said I was going to stay in a position for a year, so I didn't want to just looking crazy on my resume. So I'm just going to stay here for a year, and then I'm going to find me another job. Well, the whole time I was praying my way through this job because it was just awful. People were operating without morals, not according to policy, talking to people any kind of way and all that stuff. And so it just really, it was a conflict with my spirit on how people should be treated. But I was there, trying to make the best of it. But the whole time I'm having conversations with God, like, God, I consulted you. This wasn't a flesh move. You told me to go there because I really believe God told me to go there. So month 7 through 8, somewhere between month 7 and 8, I decided enough was enough. And so I separated from the organization. 4 months later, put myself back on the job market. 4 months later, I got my dream job. I got my dream job, and I needed the title of that. I needed the regional title of that awful position to get my dream job.
Yeah. Oh,
and
wow.
So I was like, okay, God, I see you.
Yeah.
I see you. I had to trust in you by leaving my comfort zone, because I had been at the other company for over a decade, could probably do the job with my eyes closed. I had to trust in you for leaving my comfort zone, step out on faith, accept a new job, so that I could have that on my resume to get the job that you really had for me, which is my dream job, which was a job in another job in the C-suite. And so I was happy about that, but the feeling, I felt like I had failed myself. I felt like when I was going through that experience, I felt like I thought God was talking to me. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was flesh that was talking.
I know how that feels. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what's going on? But after everything, after the smoke settled, and I was offered that other job, and I was able to see clearly how God made his move. And that's why you have to trust the process. And I love the verse that you use, all things work for the good. And I love the fact that you say it doesn't always feel like it.
Life is like a puzzle piece, and when you look back, when you finally get there or get almost there, and you look back, you realize how the puzzles fit together. Like, I remember working at one job, out of school, in healthcare. And I'm like, you sure you wanted me to come here? This job was awful, but it gave me, number one, a lot of experience. And then it went to what I thought was my dream job. But I met so many great physicians and people who are still mentors and that I love to this day. Had I not worked there to get here, then I wouldn't have met them. And then all of a sudden, that's when God told me, you need to step out and start your own. And I remember I kind of teeter-tottered back and forth. And I remember he told me at one point, I was driving over a speed hump. I remember like it was yesterday. He was like, if you don't do this, this opportunity is not going to come again. And so I did it. So I'm like, okay, I walked away from my quote dream job to start my own. And I'm like, God, did I do the right thing? Did I hear you? Should I stay with the money where it's safe and I get a paycheck every 2 weeks? I don't gotta worry about
All of
all these problems and Dominion Power calling me and like all the admin stuff and the patient stuff. And then I'll never forget, a year later, my quote dream practice, they got bought out and they closed. And I would have got a severance package had I stayed there.
Yeah.
And then, it's like, then we had to move to California. But now when I look at it, I have so many more people across the country that I'm touching that I never would have touched or never would have met had I stayed in Virginia. And my family grew as a result of that. So when you look at it, it's like a puzzle. You like you said, you gotta just trust that process. And even though you may quote start over, like it may look like I'm starting over, but I'm going to start even better than I did before. Now I know about COVID protocols and how to keep myself safe. And we didn't know about that before.
Yes.
Or, I know about some of the admin hassles that it took me. They may have stressed me out before, but they're not going to stress me out this time. So you just got to trust that process. It all comes together.
I love it, love it, love it. And so one final question before I allow you to tell the leadership community about how they can stay in contact with you and anything that you have coming up. So you're a female leader. I'm a female leader. And we work and operate within a space of male leaders. There's a lot of articles, research, movie, gossip, about the difference between the genders. So according to Dr. Shaughnassee, how does gender impact one's ability to be an effective leader, or does gender impact one's ability to be an effective leader?
You know what? I will say that it does. I really resonate with you when you say you're a daughter, you're a wife, you're a mother. I got all those titles too, and I got doctor, and I got churchgoer, and all these other things that I do. And I'm not saying that our male counterparts don't have that, but when I look at it, like who's the one picking up the kids and getting a doctorate and trying to manage this and trying to see patients, it was me. I had great help. He did his part. But I think for females, there definitely is many hats that we wear, and you got to be prepared for that. Like I said, I grew up in an entrepreneur family. My grandmother lived that life. My mother lived that life. So sometimes I would cry about it, and they would tell me, put your big girl panties on and deal with it. That's what you signed up for when you said, I'm going to be a leader in your field. You got to still take care of home and take care of your job. And I think, if you especially work in a male dominated industry, you gotta, number one, know your stuff. You gotta know who you are. And you have to have a level of assertion, Now, no one's looking for another male. I'm not saying go up in there and be rude and mean and things. But we all know people will try to manipulate other people. That's just human nature. And, sometimes in certain industries, they may think that as women, you don't know as much, or you may be allowing all those other roles to cloud your judgment in this role. And you got to show up every day and show up at your best self, and say, I can handle this. I can do this. And then even if you got to go in the bathroom and cry, sometimes you got to put that poker face on and just deal with it. And I know it sounds tough, but that's how I've always been raised. Have grace on yourself, all of those things, self-care, all of that. But if you're going to be a leader, I've learned that you got to show, as a woman, you got to show up every single day. You got to be on top of your game. You can't let anyone walk over you or anything like that. And you still got to be prepared to go home, whatever your home looks like, and take care of that.
Yes, yes, yes. I totally co-sign everything that you have said there in terms of, I know that even with the merging of the roles and maybe the switching of the roles is a better thing in terms of husbands being more active in marriages and assuming certain activities that were traditionally thought of as the woman's role or the woman's job, like cooking and different things like that. I still understand that we still have more roles in terms of numbers. You know, right. So although we may have that partnership, and that partnership may come in to whatever we decide is best for our little nucleus, in terms of who's going to do what, but we still, in terms of number of roles, seem to be the one that has the most roles. And I certainly also agree with, you made a comment about crying in the bathroom. I got this thing about we as women leaders will not be crying in the workplace. Go to your car, go to your office and close the door, or go to the bathroom, but we will not be crying just as a routine emotion to things in the work. That is not a good look. You know, so we don't do that. And so this has been wonderful. I love this. And so tell the leadership community how they can stay connected with you on social media, and you're welcome to plug anything that you have going on that you would love their support in. But yeah, the floor is yours, Dr. Vines.
Most definitely. We'll definitely check out our business. Coceaux Health is spelled a little differently. So COCEAUX. We are on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. We're online at coceauxhealth.com. Check us out. We have a newsletter that we send out on Midwife Mondays and Women's Health Wednesdays. We have blog topics. So things that you want to know that you don't necessarily feel you're getting answers to, we try and provide the answers there for you as well. Like I said, we have online services, and stay tuned. We are coming back with the in-person building. So now, since we're back steady in Virginia, that's where the home base is going to be. So looking forward to seeing some of my patients who've become family again, and welcoming new patients as well. So please like our pages so that way you can stay connected, see when we're going to be opening that, hopefully next year. And, just staying connected with the newsletter and seeing what's going on new with Coceaux Health.
Absolutely. And I'll sign up for my newsletter, and I encourage everyone in the leadership community. I'm excited that she's back in my state, in my area. So this is really exciting news. If you kind of tuned in the middle of this episode, I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. I am the creator and the TV host of Leadership is Served. And Leadership is Served is simply, if you think about your favorite recipe, sometimes you add a little bit of this or you subtract a little bit of that to give it a different flavor. Because we here at Leadership is Served believe that leadership is very situational. You cannot be the same leader every day with different situations. So you may have to apply different competencies at different levels based on what you're facing and what you're dealing with, because we are problem solvers. And so that is why the title is Leadership is Served. Give or take your leadership competencies in order to be successful in your walk. We are here every Saturday, Eastern Standard Time, US time, because of course we're running in over 200 countries through different TV stations. And so I am excited about this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on next Saturday, Eastern Standard Time in the US, for another episode of Leadership is Served.